So let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. They went into the draft. They had some needs, of course, special teams in the return game, wide receiver, edge. They even bolstered their offensive line. The Chargers, they've done a great job the past couple of seasons drafting lineman after lineman, especially in the first round. Of course, they brought in Corey Linsley as well in free agency, gave him a contract. He's arguably the best center in the league. It's either him or Creed Humphrey. I'm looking at the Chargers and I'm saying that they just had issues last season. Their offensive coordinator, Lombardi, just wasn't very good. Kellen Moore comes in from the Cowboys. Receiver, though, that speed, deep threat. Jalen Guyton was out for the season. He's back on a one-year deal, so you're getting him. But it's also going out there and getting Quentin Johnston. I was just looking at his tape because before I got on a video, I wanted to make sure that I knew as much as I could about him. Had drop concerns, but I don't think his quarterback, who the Chargers actually drafted in the 7th round, Max Duggan. Why not, right? The backup of the Chargers, it was Easton Stick. I mean, when was the last time he actually even played much? It's been years, right? I mean, we haven't seen much of Stick at all. So going out and getting Duggan in the 7th round, it's just really nothing to lose on that. But if you look at the quarterback play for him at TCU, I'm talking about Quentin Johnston, I think that made him look a lot worse than he actually is. And now he's walking in with a top 5 quarterback in the NFL in Justin Herbert. It wouldn't be a shock to me at all if Herbert wins MVP next season. Kellen Moore, but also now having that third receiver who is going to be great. I don't think Johnson's going to be a number 1 receiver in the league. I'm not saying he can't be, but I think him being paired with Keenan Allen and him being paired with Mike Williams is going to be the perfect role for him. I do want to talk about the other picks, though, for this Chargers team. So I'll pull them all up, right? So, of course, they made 7 of them. The first round, they went out and got Quentin Johnston. The second round, they got Tuipulotu out of USC. Edge can play the interior. That's what the Chargers are saying. Good player, high motor guy. Diane Henley, linebacker in the 3rd round. Linebacker was certainly something that needed to be addressed as Drew Tranquill went over to the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, it's tough. I don't know who my favorite pick is that the Chargers made. It's between Darius Davis and Jordan McFadden. I think the best pick they made, best value, would be McFadden, offensive lineman, of course, out of Clemson. Can play pretty much anywhere. Great depth piece. But I think the thing with Darius Davis is that he ran a, 4.36 at the top of my head. So he's incredibly fast. He can be a receiver, be a 4th or a 5th receiver, but he was brought in to play that kick return position. That's big time. He's going to be good for the Chargers. They needed speed. They got Johnston, they got Davis, and of course they got Duggan. So that's 43% of their draft picks were from TCU. I like this draft a lot. I haven't actually looked into it until today. I mean, I'm recording this on May 16th. I mean, we are 3 weeks away from the draft at this point, but I love what the Chargers are doing, especially bringing in Kellen Moore. Austin Eckler is clearly going to be back. The Chargers didn't draft a running back. If they felt like he was going to be traded, there's no way they would have gone the entire draft without a running back. So Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen had a hamstring injury, but after he came back, looked like an absolute man possessed, as he always does. Mike Williams missed that wild card game against. It's things like that, staying healthy, keeping guys upright. Well, the Chargers, they have a lot more depth. That was the thing for the Chargers, was going into this draft and getting as much depth as they possibly can. And in that regard, they did an absolute fantastic job, a flawless job by Tom Telesco going out there and filling in a bunch of holes on the roster. I'm looking at the safety position. Of course, Nazir Adderley retired. Losing him is going to be something that definitely is going to become the future starter. But as of now, it's looking like it's going to be James and Gilman. A couple of other safety pickups, we saw them get Baker Williams, and they also got a guy undrafted out of Ole Miss and Finley. So, yeah, right now, I mean, there's some depth there for sure. Cornerback, Asante Samuel, Michael Davis, Jazir Taylor, who looked good in the slot last season. You also have J.C. Jackson, who was a big free agent pickup last year, got hurt, and I don't know what the issue was, if it was more zone or what, but we just did not see the typical J.C. Jackson that we're accustomed to. So hopefully we can get a bounce-back season from him. He is still rehabbing, so that's something to obviously take into consideration. But I do think the Chargers have good depth at corner even without Jackson. I'm not necessarily worried about that. I'm more worried about the defensive line and the linebackers stopping the run. The secondary for the Chargers, I'm not saying it's elite by any means, but it's definitely good enough to get the job done. And last season, that's how I felt. The next thing for the Chargers is going to be, what is their outlook for next season? I was looking at who I had in my top 10, and I saw the Chargers were ranked at 12th. I think they're a better team than the Dolphins. They beat them. I know it's a new year, but they did beat the Dolphins last year. I think the Seattle Seahawks are probably around the same type of tier. Personally, I think the Chargers are better. A lot of that has to do with Justin Herbert. There was a lot of flaws in the offense last season, whether that be coaching or lack of consistency or health. And Justin Herbert, if you can get him more of a run game. Austin Eckler is great, but that's another thing about the Chargers is that the tight ends couldn't block last season, and the Chargers didn't even draft the tight end. They didn't make any moves whatsoever to address that. The offensive line is great for the Chargers. Of course, Rashawn Slater, All-Pro as a rookie, is going to be back, which certainly will help. But overall, I don't understand the Justin Herbert slander. This is a guy who he's had some good teams overall, but there's also been a lot of holes in the roster, and that has held the Chargers from either missing the playoffs entirely or, like we saw against the Jags, collapsing in that second half. If Kellen Moore had been coaching, the Chargers certainly win that game very comfortably. But he wasn't coaching, right? Reason to be excited for sure. Charger fans, they're used to getting excited, and they're always let down. That's how it is. Very similar to teams like, I guess, the Cleveland Browns, if that's a good comparison. I don't know. It's just these two teams, AFC teams, that should be extremely happy with their future. Both of them had great drafts. They had some good pickups in free agency, but more importantly, they have two top 10 quarterbacks at minimum in Justin Herbert and Deshaun Watson. I do love the Chargers schedule, starting off with the Dolphins, Titans, Vikings, and Raiders, and then going on a bye week, and then things get tough. You've got the Dallas Cowboys, Kansas City Chiefs, Chicago Bears, newly improved, Justin Fields. I expect him to have a big-time season. Of course, the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers now. The Lions finished the season off 8-2 last season. The Green Bay Packers, I think, are going to be a lot better than people think with Jordan Love. Ravens, Patriots, Broncos, Raiders, Bills, Broncos, Chiefs. Overall, this is a schedule where the Chargers should be winning at least 10 games at minimum. They're a good team. They're starting off fully healthy or as close to it as possible. We'll wait and see about J.C. Jackson. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa coming off the edge, going out there and drafting another edge in the second round, can also play in the interior, of course, in double T. There's just no excuses. Kellen Moore, Quentin Johnston, there's speed in the offense now. The offensive line's getting healthier, something that they struggled with last season. I need to see more out of the tight ends. I thought for sure that the Chargers were going to draft the tight end. They didn't.